Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Cover One Roundup here, live on the Cover One YouTube channel each and every Monday night. I am your host, Kyle Silagyi, joined this and every week by co-host David Fox, who is fresh off a Euro trip. Don't tell Scotty, because Scotty doesn't know. Good reference there.
Definitely one I understand, too.
I think there was a movie called Euro Trip. I've never seen it, but there's a song called Scotty Doesn't Know, which is a go-to karaoke song. And I think it's from Euro Trip. I think it's just a movie song. But what are we doing here today? Great question, chat. We are going to be doing our way too early. And by way too early, I mean like maybe slightly too early. It's they got like a month and a half until the roster cut down, actually. But they have a whole training camp and a whole, preseason and stuff to go through first. So will our 53-man roster prediction that we're doing today end up being perfect? Yes, it will. And that's Obviously. What we're doing. As you can see here, we will dive into this. On my screen, this doesn't look very good. This is kind of blurry, but it is what it is. We are going to be doing our 53-man roster prediction here. We'll dive into it later, but that's the gist of all. That's the gist of what you need to know. Just we're doing a 53-man roster prediction. But before we get into that, David, how was Europe?
It was 10 days in London, 4 days in Italy. Just really fascinating. It was, it was just all this, ancient and old architecture and buildings and, all this history. You walk into some of these places and it's just like, it's wild being in a place that's like that old, and it's very clearly that old, but it has all this effort that was put into it when it was made. And then you go to a place like Italy, and where I was, it was Lucca, and it's just this little town, and in the interior, it's all walled off from the ancient like medieval walls that they still have, and you don't hear like the usual city noise. You just hear people just walking and talking and eating and drinking and whatnot. It's just, it's very, very different. And it was all very cool. It was all very cool.
Did you drink a lot of wine?
Yes, I did.
See,
you're not a wine drinker.
Continue, you're not a wine guy. I was cutting you off. You can continue.
No, it's all right.
It's your you went on vacation.
Like the very first day we were in Italy, we went to this woman's home to learn how to make appetizers, basically. She was we were there like at 6 or 7, whenever it was, and she had like just come back from the market on her bike, and she had all this stuff for us. It was all just fantastic, and seeing how she went about making a lot of it was just very, very cool. And it was very different. And Italy in particular is just so relaxing. It's hard to just be like stressed when you're in the middle of Tuscany in Italy. You're just kind of like, all right, this is pretty nice. It was all very good.
The only thing I know about Italy when it comes to wine is they drink a lot of wine.
They do.
And in order for me to consume wine, it needs to be red. It needs to be sweet. It essentially needs to be glorified grape juice. And that even means it needs to be in the fridge. I need it out of the fridge. And I drank it, or I served it one time like that, out of the fridge, essentially a glorified grape juice. And I got yelled at because the person was like, "This is not how they do it in Italy." And I'm like, "I'm in Buffalo, New York."
You're in Buffalo, New York.
Shut the fuck up. Like, come on.
If you want Italian wine, if you want the Italian wine experience, go to Italy. You'll enjoy it a lot more than you will here in my
give me a break. Yeah, like
you're welcome. By the way,
you're lucky I'm not giving you a can of Labatt Blue right now. Shut up.
You really should have just gotten like a box of wine. That would have. Yeah, that's high class right there.
It's the classiest thing. Okay, RJ writes, this is just wine roundup now. Why it
Hey,
tastes
I'm all for
significantly
it.
better over in Italy? I think it's because they don't use sulfates. Is that like a biology thing or a physics thing?
I'm sure it is. There's a lot of like stuff that goes into like wine making, wine tasting, what to look for, that sort of stuff. Yeah, if we ever do a wine roundup, I could bring my dad on. He's like a
Is he a
wine
wine guy?
person. He's a wine guy. He's definitely a wine guy.
I'll bring my wine. I will bring the bottle of wine that I drink. No, I have a whole wine lore. We'll wait for the wine roundup.
Wine lore. Kyle Silagyi wine lore. It's one of the most insane things I've ever heard. I love it. I look forward to it.
I don't have the file because I deleted it. I made a wine label for something called Kyle Wine. There's a whole story. I'm not getting into it today. This show and Cover One in general are brought to you by a number of sponsors. One of them is BetUS, who we will hear about from now via Greg.
Hey guys, Cover One is excited to announce our new partnership with BetUS. BetUS has a live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business, and an easy deposit and withdrawal process with the fastest payouts in the industry. Our loyal Cover One fans get a choice between two exclusive offers, either a 125% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,500 or a free $50 bet with no deposit required. Just use promo code COVER1 on the links provided in the show description below. BetUS, where the game begins.
Thank you, Greg, and BetUS for sponsoring the show. And speaking of sponsoring the show, this show and Cover One in general are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. David, can you tell us a little bit about Underdog?
I would love to tell everyone about what should be everyone's favorite fantasy football application and website, and that is Underdog Fantasy. Now, if you just have your one home league and that's not enough for you once we get into the season, we are getting very close to the regular season, or at the very least a training camp, which is something.
We're in 53-man roster projection territory.
That's right. We're right in that range. This is definitely not early at all. If your one league isn't enough for you, Underdog Fantasy is for you. It's all the fun of drafting your own players, but without the waivers and lineup decisions. Best ball drafts allow you to have all the fun of drafting your own team, all the chances to win big with none of the week-to-week hassle. If you use promo code COVER1, that's the number 1, when signing up to make your first deposit, Underdog will match that deposit up to $100. That is a free $100 in free play. Which is not as much in British currency, but who cares? It's America. That's why that's why we had that whole revolution. Learn your history. That's $100 free in free play if you use promo code COVER1. And even better, actually, no, I don't know if that's going to be good for this year. So we'll just say, if you use the promo code COVER1 when making your deposit with Underdog Fantasy, they will match that deposit up to $100. There you go.
Thank you, Underdog. Okay, we can actually get into the football now, but before we do that, wine talk continues. Rick writes, "You'd probably love Richard's Wild Irish Rose, Kyle. Thank you. While David was doing the Underdog read, I did look it up. I screenshotted it, and I will have a full review next week on Richard's Wild Irish Rose.
Oh my gosh, that looks.
It was described as a value wine, which I'm all about.
Sure
value.
Does.
I'm all about value. Yeah, like that song 1 week by the Bare Naked Ladies. They put on a good concert. Let's go. The 53-man roster is what we are doing, as you can see here from this document that I have assembled here. Okay, so one, I don't know if you guys can read it, but just know we will talk over it and you will know who we are projecting to make the roster and so on and so forth. And like, if you're looking at the layout, don't be too caught up on like the layout of it, because it's an amalgamation of like, it's largely just ESPN's depth chart copied into a Google Excel spreadsheet or whatever. But the thing is that one, ESPN is kind of stupid in where they list players. So, you know, I've kind of made a few alterations. And two, ESPN didn't have every player. So I added ones who I noticed were missing, but if I missed any more, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. But I think we will. I think we'll get over it, because like, I didn't miss Josh Allen. I don't think. No, Josh Allen is still there. You know, and he's a big a big question mark. So we will get into that. So as you can see here, I think all the players currently on the roster. And then down here, we have a key, which is obviously how we will label the depth chart as we go throughout this presumably hour of content, our podcast. Players who we perceive to be roster locks will be highlighted in green, and then they will be added to the counter. We will count as we go as to make this an efficient process, as to up efficiency. Then we have yellow, Bubble Boy, like the film, Bubble Boy.
I thought you were going to say the Seinfeld episode.
I've never seen the show, never seen the program.
You're not a Seinfeld person?
No, I'm joking. I'd see that episode, but no, Seinfeld's right. Yes, people who we highlight in yellow will be discussed later with other people in yellow to make up the final few spots. And then we have a crazy category, purple, trade. That is players who we think might make the roster, but we might be better off, or the Bills may be more apt to trade them and recoup an asset and keep somebody else on the 53-man roster over them. Looking at you, Mike Butker. And then red, we have no, which just means you're not going to make the roster. Are we ready to commence?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, starting at quarterback. This one should be quick. Hopefully, starting here with Josh Allen, we got the Diggs hating Hawkeye Dayton son of a gun. He's probably going to make it, right? We can highlight him in green.
Well, I mean, we could put the purple trade on him, right. Just in case, because we don't know. Yes, we can put lock on Josh Allen.
Character concerns with Josh Allen. Recoup your assets if you can. Yes, he'll make it, and so will his brother Kyle, right?
Sure, why not? Not really brothers, but yeah, probably. I mean, they brought him in to be the clipboard guy, the buddy, basically. That's it.
Right, friend of Josh Allen. At Cash writes, I came in for the 53-man roster projection, and the first thing I hear is Josh Allen, question mark. Welcome to the Cover One Roundup.
That's right.
Welcome to the type of stuff. This is the only type of analysis you'll get here. So yes, Josh Allen, obvious. Kyle Allen, friend of Allen makes it. Matt Barkley is a friend of Allen, but is more like Kyle Allen is like a Twitter mutual, kind of like they get into the weeds with each other, right? Like they can trust each other with their deep, dark secrets. Whereas Matt Barkley is kind of like a Facebook friend of Josh Allen. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, here's photos of my family, and here's a PC joke.
Here's all the crypto I'm into.
Right, like, okay, Uncle Matt, like, yeah, that's totally not a scam. It's really cool. Yeah, I'll listen to your podcast. No, he's not making the roster. You
think he's just not making the roster?
Well, we're not doing practice squad because you could not pay me to, try
and project a
practice squad in late July, and which is if we were to do that in mid-July, that's exactly we would be getting paid to do that if we did that. We're just not going to do that. RJ writes. There may need to be a practice squad lock. That is Matt Barkley. We can all agree Matt Barkley is going to make the practice squad.
Can you combine colors like a red and a yellow? That would be orange, right?
Yes. Yeah. Would it? Can I? Yeah, I could make orange.
Red and yellow is orange.
Yeah. Why? What?
I remember colors.
I was in the art academy. I should know these things. Are we adding a category? Are we doing a I don't want.
No. Let's just call it the Matt Barkley practice squad lock.
Okay. Yes. Yes, practice squad lock, Matt. As you guys can see here, Taron Johnson has his own category because they did not have a slot category or a nickel corner listing on ESPN. So yes, he got his. I had to audible and do his own category. So yes, orange.
This is why you need to use our lads.
Matt Barkley practice squad lock. There you go. All right, Matt Barkley. You're in a category of your own. That's what his mom told him. Okay.
I feel better. I don't know if you do, but I do.
Yes, I can. I'm going to be able to sleep tonight now, maybe. Moving on to the running back position. Oh, and the counter. We got to do that. We currently have 2 players on the roster. Awesome. Okay. Here we go. Oh, and while we're on this category, right, because math is not my strong suit. if there's one takeaway when 10 years from now, when we look back on the Cover One Roundup and, it's been canceled for 9.5 years, and we're wondering what is the one takeaway that we have from the Cover One Roundup, it's Kyle was bad at math. So while we're just here and we can get this out of the way, let's just put Tyler Bass, Sam Martin, and Reed Ferguson in green. Because even if it's not Sam Martin, right? Even if somehow another punter comes in and challenges him, it doesn't matter.
I don't really care.
Right. It's going to be a punter. So we currently have 5 of 53 roster spots taken. Okay. James Cook.
Lock.
Gonna make it. Yeah. I agree. No disagreements so far. Okay. Damian Harris.
I'm gonna say lock.
Okay, what about Nyheim Hines? Let's do Hines first.
Okay, let's do Hines first. I think Hines is a lock because I think that, he'll be used on offense. Maybe not a lot, who knows? But he's definitely going to be on special teams. And they value special teams way too much to just be like, oh, yeah, we'll just, let this guy go that we traded for midseason and also had 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns against, a division opponent to seal a great win, essentially. Even just outside of that, he was really good on returns. And it was better than having Isaiah McKenzie back there. Not that we even have to talk about Isaiah McKenzie anymore.
I love it. I love Brandon Beane.
I kind of just realized that we don't have to talk about this. I love Isaiah McKenzie. He did a lot of fun stuff when he was here, but good Lord, he was not like a good player.
It got tiresome. It did get tiresome. Did you see the video that the Colts put out of they asked him, which do you prefer, ranch or blue cheese? And he said ranch.
See, this is why he's not a Bill anymore.
He was always
why he's not here anymore.
He was never a true friend.
Never
a true friend.
He was never him.
No. He was the fake face of the franchise, and it's sad. You don't know who you can trust anymore. But yes, all of the things you said about Hines, cosign, good player. Presumably will have a larger role in the offense now that he has been here for more than a handful of weeks. And another thing is, people are going to point to the contract, because it was if they cut him, they could have freed $5 million. It was restructured. He took a pay cut, right? You rarely see players willingly take pay cuts. I think he got down to $3.5 million. So they could still free up some space by cutting Nyheim Hines. But also, typically, when it does happen and a player does just take a pay cut willingly, it is done with the understanding you're probably going to stick around. We'll do what we can to keep you around. So I do think Nyheim Hines is going to make it. And then Jordan Mims, fun story. I would say probably on the practice squad. It might be a dude who we can, like in training camp and preseason, and might be an entertaining watch, but I don't
like Raheem Blackshear.
A little bit of Raheem Blackshear, different player, obviously, but just story-wise. But yeah, I don't see him pushing for the roster spot, a roster spot. So that leaves us with Damian Harris and Latavius Murray. Some people would say they are both locks. Some people would say only one is making the roster. As I can't pronounce this name, but I'm going to put up their comment. I think it's going to be Harris versus Murray for the power back position, both on the bubble. That's why as of right now, I like both of them. I think they can both bring different things to the offense, but I think largely their role, their presumptive role as of July 10th is the same, right? They're both power back.
They were brought in for the same reason, right? Which is that short yardage, just if you need a yard or two, you're going to give it to them, and they're more than likely going to get it. I think that Harris is a bit, Murray is a lot older. He's probably 31 or something like that.
I think so. Yeah.
Let me check with my producer. But with 32. He's 32.
He's still 33.
I have 32.
Wikipedia. Okay, so we'll go with you. He's still got juice though. He's still got a bit of juice.
I don't know if Latavius Murray ever had juice, but he has what he needs in order to like do what he needs to do in the NFL.
He's got his.
And I think that Harris has a little bit more shiftiness just because he's a little younger, he's a little more agile. But I think that both basically are going to end up doing the same sort of thing. If you're forcing me to choose one over the other, I guess I would say Harris over Murray. But I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, they didn't keep Latavius Murray. Like, what are they going to do? It's like, whatever. I think that they would like to keep both.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we're talking who is more likely to make the roster initially, it would probably be Damian Harris.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can kind of try and ride the waiver wire with Latavius Murray and just, he could be somebody that's like, we're going to cut you, wait in the parking lot. We'll call you when the 24 hours is up. That type of thing.
We'll sneak someone on Belichick Island and we'll figure this out. A lot of good comments here. Roy Collins usually keep 4 running backs. I think they're all locks. RJ, I hope they both make the roster. Ralph Wilson Sr. Murray will stay healthier. Yeah, we do have to talk about health.
That is an important thing to talk about because despite Murray's age, he has been very consistent health-wise, injury-wise. Whereas Harris has missed games just in his just even last year. I mean, this is not like the most durable player out there, as opposed to Murray, who is very durable but doesn't give you quite the same skill set that Harris does. So I would like to see both. If there's a way they can keep both, I would like that. I think that's fine. I wouldn't have any complaints about it. Of course, I say that now, and we're going to have some trouble actually getting through it all through 53. But I think right now I'd be willing to. How do we want to do this?
Here's what
how do we actually want? Okay.
As of right now, I am going to put them both in yellow with the caveat that at least one of them is making the roster.
Right.
Possibly both of them still make the roster. We just need to see how the numbers stack up at the end of this. But we will have.
So right now we're at 7 players that are locks.
Wonderful. Reggie Gilliam, he's going to make the roster. They like him a lot. He has a role in the offense. Yeah, he has. Fullback coming back. All right, Stefon Diggs. Interesting discussion to be had regarding Stefon Diggs. Big drama alert, DJ King.
So I think we can put him along with Matt Barkley in that orange practice squad lock.
Matt Barkley practice squad lock, yeah.
Okay. Him and Matt Barkley might have beef. I mean, did you see how Diggs didn't high five him at minicamp?
Right. Yeah. No, that was concerning.
What's that all about?
So you don't want him on the practice squad because you want them as far away from each other as possible.
I think you kind of need to, just put him in a room, kind of cage match style. Actually, there was a friend of mine that played football in college. He had a bit of a temper problem at times. He got into it with one of his teammates during a practice, and apparently his coach was like, "You two off to the sides. You're gonna sit across from each other. You're gonna sit crisscross applesauce. You're gonna work this out."
I love it. Just a kindergarten teacher approach. Just like go in the corner.
I love that he very specifically said crisscross apples.
Can you imagine an angry person yelling at you in complete seriousness? Crisscross applesauce. It's better than the other thing he could have called it, but crisscross applesauce. Love it. Roy Collins writes, 1 hour show. Good luck. Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, Stefon Diggs, he is him. He's a great football player. And despite his beef with Josh Allen, they're going to have to work through that because there's some real, genuine, legitimate beef. Sad. Gabriel Davis, I think he's great. He's a lock. Yeah. Again, for this season, we can talk about his long-term capabilities as a wide receiver too.
Right. We can talk about whether he should be extended. We can talk about what he is and what he isn't. But regardless of all of that, he's going to be on this roster.
Yes.
That's just the long and short of it.
Deontay Hardy.
He's a
They just signed him. He's a lock as well. I think he is going to do, hopefully be a more efficient Isaiah McKenzie, if that makes sense.
How about just like what Isaiah McKenzie thinks Isaiah McKenzie is?
Yes.
That would be nice.
I love how I think when we both started this podcast, we were both like very cool with Isaiah McKenzie. We were just like, yeah, no, he's good, good player, cool player to have, nice piece to have. And then
he had that New England game where he had like 11 catches, and it was just ridiculous. And everyone's like, oh, look at Isaiah McKenzie, he's gonna be the guy. And we were both just like, that'd be nice.
No. Yeah, no,
but no.
I've seen the rest of Isaiah McKenzie. I know this isn't his. But everyone tried to tell us, no, he's good. And it's like, then I started to dislike him. Okay. Good guy, though. Face of the franchise. Okay. Everyone else. Okay, I shouldn't say everyone else. A few other dudes here to have interesting conversations.
Okay, so first of all, let's go from column F over to column D and just put red for all of them.
Brian Thompson is a player who I learned existed today. He is currently on the Bills roster.
Me too, like 5 seconds ago.
Isaiah Coulter and Jalen Wayne, I will, maybe practice squad dudes, not going to push.
Maybe, but we're not going to, we're not doing
that. They're not going in orange. Tyrell Shavers, I refuse to put in red for now. I'm going to put in yellow, and we will have the debate later. Because there's some interesting things about Tyrell Shavers. And if I end up using different shades of these colors for people, or, if I piss off ADHD people because I misclick colors, I'm sorry. Desmond Patman, he has big hands, I think, but I don't think he's going to make it. Marcel Aitman could be a cool camp story. Oh, no, wrong color. Could push for the roster. Don't think he's going to. So I'm just going to say, do we want to go yellow on Marcel Aitman or just
no?
Okay, fair. And Keyshawn Johnson. They brought Keyshawn back?
They did.
That's crazy. He's green. I misclicked. Okay. Discussion time. Who do you want to start with?
So hold on. First of all, let's start with the with this from a numbers angle. How many wide receivers do you think they actually keep? 5 or 6?
That'll depend on end of the show when we're trying to sneak dudes on at the expense of other positions. So right now I am fine with 5 green and then one of these dudes in yellow.
Okay.
Or maybe
so the one guy that I feel 100% on to be a lock is going to be Trent Sherfield.
Ooh, wow.
Because he is a veteran player, first of all, and he's somebody that, like, what you're getting with Trent Sherfield. On offense, he can, on a very rare occasion, provide some good catches, some nice plays, et cetera, et cetera. Not often, though. So you're already a step above Taiwan Jones, basically. And Trent Sherfield, a good special teams player. And like we already talked about, this regime values special teams players a lot. So if you're replacing Taiwan Jones with Trent Sherfield, and Trent Sherfield is going to get you more offensive snaps and production than Taiwan Jones, which is to say any, then Taiwan Jones has been a lock on this roster for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty hard pressed to say that Trent Sherfield is not a lock on this roster.
Right, and there's been that early talk about Sherfield and Allen developing early chemistry. I mean, as early as good as chemistry as can be developed at this point in the season.
It's something.
They're developing it. We are going to be like, if I put Khalil Shakir in anything other than green, we're not finishing the podcast because people are going to come and tear my door down and take me out with a bag over my head. Like
you need some excitement in your life, Kyle.
I need a reality check. I need to wake up.
What better thing for you than a good old fashioned home invasion?
Wonderful. As long as they're bringing the wine, right? The Irish wine or whatever somebody said earlier. That's all I need. I'll go with anyone if they have wine. So they have this Irish wine. Okay. Khalil Shakir. I don't.
So go ahead. Go ahead. I'll say my thing later. You go ahead.
We talked about it earlier. Or a couple of weeks ago. I don't personally think Khalil Shakir is as much of a roster lock as everyone else seems to think that he is. But that said, I think that he is. I'm going to put him in green because I think that he, one, is young, right? This is his second year. He showed enough flashes in his rookie year. Granted, he had a few mistakes along the way, but he showed enough flashes. And he is their primary depth at every starting receiver spot, right? Like if Diggs or Davis, God forbid, were to go down, it's probably Khalil Shakir starting on the outside. Or if Deontay Hardy goes down, it's probably Shakir plugging into the slot.
I disagree with that. I think that's why you have Trent Sherfield.
Okay, so
that to me is what, like, Trent Sherfield has played for some good offenses in the last couple of years in San Francisco and then Miami. Like, whenever he got called up to do something on offense for those teams, he was able to do something. And he has the size, right? Like, he's what? Let's see what we got here. Trent Sherfield is something. He's 6 foot. He's 6 foot.
Okay, so you can put him wherever.
So he can play on the boundary and he can play on the slot because he's more of a slot receiver. He has more experience in the slot. I don't know how highly the team specifically, thinks of Khalil Shakir. One, because he's not going to contribute on special teams. He can be a return guy.
Right, he's not returning.
But he's not returning when you have Nyheim Hines and Deontay Hardy. Because, I mean, I'd rather see Deontay Hardy back there trying to do something with his speed rather than Khalil Shakir. Yeah. So, and Shakir also, I mean, is he a gunner? Is he one of these coverage types of guys? Maybe he is on kickoffs. I'd have to do a little bit of a dive into seeing what he'd be able to do there. But if that's the case, then, I mean, we know Justin Shorter can do that too, because Justin Shorter did that in college.
Yeah. Khalil Shakir is secretly maybe the most interesting bill this offseason, just because his range of possibilities is so vast.
So I think let's sort of do what we did with Harris and Murray, and let's just sort of say one of these guys is going to be on the roster for sure.
Maybe both.
And maybe both. But let's put them in the bubble for now.
See, I want to bring this up. Trip McMahon wrote Shorter over Shaquille in my Shaquille O'Neal over Khalil Shakir. I agree. I think Shorter again. I think Shakir definitely would have more of an offensive impact this year in theory. Yeah. But again, just looking like who's going to get on the field every week, right? Like Shorter's going to play team.
Who are they activating every week, right? Like how many times is Khalil Shakir going to be active every single week? I don't know.
Shorter is playing teams. And again, just in theory, on paper, I think Shorter's potential, his ceiling is higher than Shakir's.
And that's the other thing, right? Is like, you know, after Shorter got drafted, you kind of look at him and it's like, oh, so this is a potential, if we don't re-sign Gabe Davis type of player, right, this is somebody that we can have.
This is
because he does a lot of the similar things.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel a little bit more confident in Justin Shorter than I do Khalil Shakir in terms of their sort of long-term future with this team. So that's where I'm at with that. Well, but I think Diggs, Davis, Hardy, and Sherfield are all locks in my opinion.
Yes. All right. So we're up to 12. Our roster counter is at 12. I think RJ writes, I think those top six with Diggs, Davis, Sherfield, Hardy, Shakir, and Shorter. That will probably end up being what it is, but
if they just decide to keep 6 receivers on the roster, that'll be the 6 that they keep. right? Like we're not gonna sit here and say like, oh, Desmond Patton's gonna beat out Khalil Shakir for a roster spot, unless one of those guys just happens to have an insane camp and Khalil Shakir, kind of poops his pants or whatever. But we don't anticipate that happening.
I'm gonna do something crazy. I'm just gonna tease it, right? Maybe we do it, maybe we don't. Okay, and I'm leaving it at that. I put the wrong color anyway. I put the wrong color anyway. It was that one. That's the one I meant. Okay. Right. Moving on to tight ends. The Bills picked a tight end this year in the draft, or did they? They took Dalton Kincaid, who, again, we talk about slot, right? Like, it's going to be Deontay Kincaid, maybe Shakir. But they're both making it. Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, obviously. Tight end 1, tight end 2, whatever, however you want to divide it. They're both making the roster. Joel Wilson and Nick Gugamos, I'm sure they're nice guys, right? Sure, they're nice guys. Sure, they would talk to you at the bar. But they're not making this Buffalo Bills roster. Quentin Morris, do we want to? Yeah, he was on the roster last year, right? Liked him as a developmental piece. I still like him.
He's got something to him. Yeah. He's got something to him. So like, this is sort of what my brain always wants to do is like, oh well, maybe they could trade Quentin Morris. Maybe they could get trade. Yeah, it's like, well, how many other people know Quentin Morris, like, and are willing to give up some sort of asset for him.
Right.
Like that's like the next logical progression in my brain. And then the next step after that is always, teams traded for Marshall Newhouse and Russell Bodine, right at the training camp deadline, with this team, with this regime. So, anything's possible. That being said, I think the demand for even like average to below average or even just straight up bad offensive line play is a lot higher than second tight end, even in a league where you're seeing a shift towards 12 personnel. So I think that Morris is probably a bubble boy more than like just straight up no. Yeah. So I think this team likes Quentin Morris. And as Roy Collins writes, he does have special teams ability. That is for sure. And again, they want to be able to do that. Yeah, it just depends. I think they would like to keep him. It's just gonna, as we're going to discover ourselves, it's just a matter of numbers.
It's a numbers thing. Yeah, I like him a lot. I'd like to keep him. Again, I like him as a potential mismatch, right? I like converted wide receiver, right? I in theory like that mold.
And he made some good plays on offense. He did.
Again, I think he's a player, like you said, that they'd like to keep. And again, if they are going to be running a lot of 12 personnel, you should probably have at least 3 tight ends. But
that's actually exactly what RJ just wrote here. They
okay.
have to keep Morris if they want to run any sets with 2 tight ends. You have to have at least 1 backup if you're rolling out 12 personnel.
Yeah, you should probably have 3 tight ends if you're going to be doing that a lot. But for now, we will keep him in yellow. Again, probably going to make it, but we'll see. So we're up to 14 with these. Okay,
that's correct.
Awesome. This is actually exactly what Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott do.
That's right. in their Google sheets.
Right. They Zoom, they have a Google sheet, and they're just like, okay, I have my nice colors, I have my labels. They just have a good old time. All right, we're on to offensive tackle now.
Sean McDermott probably does it with like an actual notebook. Let's be honest.
Yes, you're right.
He seems like somebody who just keeps a notebook around.
Sean, we have it on the screen right here. No.
It's like, yeah. I also have it in my notebook.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what's the issue? All right. Deion Dawkins, probably a roster lock. I think we can agree. Spencer Brown, despite better judgment, is a roster lock.
Based on all of the decisions they have made in this offseason, Spencer Brown seems to be a roster lock.
Right, exactly.
Because they didn't do anything.
And then David Questenberry again is just because Spencer Brown is around. David Questenberry is a roster lock. And then you just got a bunch of question marks and who knows. Tommy Doyle, I guess they were trying him at guard maybe a little bit. He's a big boy for a guard, but
whoa, you're gonna put a lock on Tommy Doyle?
Who else is backing him up? Like
I don't know.
What else is going on?
I don't want Tommy Doyle back. Where? Hold on, wait. Where's Bobby Hart on here? Is Bobby Hart on here?
Bobby Hart's not on the roster right now.
Are you serious?
If he is, if he's the one that I missed, that is very fitting. If he is the one player that I missed, but I do not believe he is currently under contract. No, he's a free agent.
Under contract. He is not under contract.
Thank the
Not
Lord.
that I want him at left tackle. That's not what I'm trying to say here. Don't misquote me on that. Most of his halfway decent reps last year came in from the interior, right? But I don't know. Tommy Doyle tore his ACL. Am I remembering that correctly? Is that what it was? That's what kept him out last year.
I think so. I don't really.
It wasn't his Achilles, right?
They're gonna keep 4 tackles, right?
Probably.
It's not gonna be Ryan Vandemark. I'm sorry. I don't think it's gonna be him. I just say no.
You're gonna disrespect Ryan, little RVD right in front of me?
Oh, you're right, Mr. Monday Night. Ryan Vandemark. Hell yeah. Okay, no, he's actually green. That's a good point. That's a great point about RVD.
Sure, why not? Let's
you bring up anything wrestling related, David. I'm jumping on it. No, Tommy Doyle will put you in yellow. That's what I meant to click anyway. Brandon Shell, I don't know who you are. I don't think you're making the roster. I'm gonna be honest. And then we got Alec Anderson, a dude who could push Tommy Doyle. Tommy
Doyle tore his ACL against the Dolphins in week 3. That's what it was. Alec
Anderson was picked what? Or is he a UDFA? How'd they get Alec Anderson? I think he was a late round draft
UDFA.
Alec,
he was undrafted last year.
Okay, so he's been around for a little bit.
He's been around for a year. He was undrafted last year.
Richard Gorage, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I do know his story. UDFA out of Florida. Was looked at as one of the better UDFAs, signs with Buffalo. Again, probably. Oh, I did not mean to do that. Again, I need to learn colors. And then this dude, again, probably, if anything, keep him around on the practice squad for a year, but I don't think he's on the roster.
Yeah, we don't need to. Yeah.
Connor writes, Shell is more of a lock than Questenberry. Didn't Shell start something like 12 games on Miami last season? Yes, he did.
Yeah, and now he's not on the roster, even though they still need offensive line help.
I think Shell may be a lock too. No, they're right. I forgot. I'm not gonna lie. I forgot who he was. Thank you, chat. Brandon Shell, we'll put him in green. He's the backup tackle. We got 4 tackles, and Tommy Doyle will come back to you later. Okay. Guard, or no, let's 14, so now we're at 18. Awesome. We're moving on up. We're moving on up.
Connor, apartment in the sky.
Connor McGovern, you're green.
Yes.
He's got a lot of money. Osiris Torrance, you are also green. You are going to make the roster. Ryan Bates is getting paid enough to make the roster. I think he will probably make the roster. David Edwards, yes.
I'm gonna say yes, just because he's a Cromer guy.
He's a Cromer dude.
He's got a lot of experience, and that's a really good player to have as a backup on the interior, in my opinion.
I agree. Ike Butker, trade that dude. We're gonna trade him. If you can, right? Recoup an asset. Yeah. I think given how bad bottom of the roster offensive linemen get around the league, especially on bad teams, there's a team that will give up an asset to have Ike Butler, but he just doesn't factor into this lineup.
It seems like a very Giants trade, right?
Yeah.
Just because Bobby Johnson's there, Dayball's there, Shane is there, yeah.
Nick Broker, a draft pick. Again, maybe he pushes again. I don't.
Yeah, but I doubt it.
I don't think he's making
the interior is already pretty jammed up there.
Right.
We have 4 guys that are locks.
Right. We got 4 tackles, 4 guards, and we got Mitch Morris, obviously green. That is 9 linemen. Greg Mance will put you in yellow. Maybe we carry a 10th O lineman. I doubt it. Given how our bubble boys are shaken up, I doubt we're carrying a 10th, but I'm good with 9 and then a couple on the practice squad. Okay, moving on to the defensive side of the ball.
Hold on. Add 5 to the counter.
Oh, thank you. That's big. 18, 19, 20, 21, 23. There we go. Okay, Chris Drury. Okay, we're moving on to the defensive side of the ball. We are only 45 minutes deep into the podcast, so good for us, right? That at this rate, we'll be out of here by 8:30. Broker can play center and tackle as well.
I'm sure he did in college. This is the NFL.
And also, like Ryan Bates can do that, and Ryan Bates isn't starting in this lineup, so you can really throw Ryan Bates. Ooh, actually, you know what? No, I'm good. I'm good with our 9. We can audible later if we need, but as of right now, I'm good with.
Let's get to the defense.
Ed Oliver, he just signed a big boy contract. He is green. Daquan Jones signed a big boy contract. And he needs to sign another big boy contract. he is green. Jordan, okay. Poona Ford, you are green.
Poona Ford is green. Yeah.
DJ
this is
Dale,
where things get interesting.
All right, let's just read these dudes so we can move on. DJ Dale, this was a dude who they did not have on the ESPN depth chart, but he was on the Bills website. Cortez Broughton, sorry, I do not see you pushing Tim Settle and Jordan Phillips. Kendall Vickers, okay.
Yeah. So
discussion.
Eli Anko, Tim Settle, Jordan Phillips. Okay. Eli Anko is somebody that's been on this roster for a while. He's one of these guys that's on the practice squad, and then he's not on the practice squad, and then he's brought back, and then he's on the roster, and blah, 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 blah. I think put him in Bubble Boy. That seems to be just sort of where he lives.
Perennial Bubble Boy.
Yeah. You're not convincing me that Eli Anko is a roster lock. That's just not a thing that I believe in. As far as the other 2 guys, though, Jordan Phillips and Tim Settle took a pay cut to stay on the team because otherwise they would have just outright cut him. He was somebody that I was excited for last year, like at least relatively excited for, because I had seen him in Washington and he had made some good plays in Washington. And I thought with this defensive line rotation, this would be really good for him. And they just didn't do anything, which was a shame. I think that he is also a bubble boy.
Let me look at his contract. How much would it cost them to get out of it? Because
not much, because he wasn't given a ton of money to begin with, and then he took a pay cut.
Let me see his dead cap. Spotrack, you're going to need to come up big here and actually.
What are you doing, Spotrack? You're killing me.
It works in a pinch, maybe. Actually, it doesn't.
Pinch, maybe.
It actually doesn't. Thank you.
What a ringing endorsement. Okay, I'm on over the cap.
Wonderful.
Actual people use. Tim Settle,
they lose money. They
do lose money.
They lose money by cutting them. Shit.
They lose less than $1 million. I think if he's just outright uninspiring at camp, and if they're in a position where they're like, hey, maybe Eli Anko is a roster lock, then maybe Tim Settle's gone. But I don't think that's actually going to happen. So I think that he is also a bubble boy.
He's going to have to make it. I mean, we'll come back to it, but I think if we're
for
trying
his
to
own sake, he better.
I think to be realistic, he's going to be on the team.
Do you want to put him in green?
I think against better judgment. I just think given how the contract works, and again, I use the logic with Nyheim Hines where it's like you took a willing pay cut, you're probably going to stick around, right? We probably,
I guess that's true,
had this agreement in place, or at least we'll not take it easy on you, but you know what I'm saying. Jordan Phillips, objectively better than Tim Settle, objectively was more impactful when he was on the field last year, and objectively has more experience with the Buffalo Bills coaching staff and in Buffalo. Just can't stay healthy. In a perfect world, yes, Jordan. In a perfect, ideal world, right? They keep 4 DTs: Oliver, Jones, Phillips, and Poona. That would be perfect. But the Settle contract and Phillips' recent injury history complicates things a fair bit.
We do not live in a perfect world, unfortunately. Right. So I would say Phillips is a lock. That's what I would say.
I agree. And again, I think his contract is relatively cheap, I think it's like incentive. If I remember correctly, it is like incentive based though. So, like, I don't think it would cost a bunch to get him out. Roy Collins writes, Roy Collins does bring up a good point. They took a lot of dead cap from cutting OJ Howard. We're putting Tim Settle in yellow. We're putting Tim Settle in yellow because then I'll be able to sleep tonight again. Okay, let's add
Von
four.
Miller, lock.
Let's add 4 for this. So that's 27.
27.
Right? Moving on. Moving on to defensive end, we got Von Miller, Greg Russo, Leonard Floyd, AJ Epinesa, all green. Again, Von might start the season on the pup, not looking like he might avoid the PUP, but regardless, he's going to make the roster. Greg Rousseau, great player, or very good player, could become a great player. Leonard Floyd just re-signed, going to play probably a relatively significant role early on, and then Epinesa quietly developing into a fine player. Now it gets interesting. We got six defensive ends left here. Cameron Klein, let's just, again, barring a Eddie Yarborough 2017, run there to the roster, I don't think he's making it. Shane Ray.
Eddie Yarborough.
What a name.
That's
right?
a pull.
What a name. Barring, a great story here. And Shane Ray, already a great story. I just don't see him making.
Have you ever seen Shane Ray play football?
Nope.
It's not great.
Okay. And now it's interesting. And now it is interesting. If I had to pick, right, like, I want to live in a world where Shaq Lawson and Kingsley Jonathan both make the roster, but they're not doing so on a roster that also has Miller, Rousseau, Floyd, and Epinesa.
I would agree with that.
And Boogie Basham we have to factor in, right? For what's that worth?
So I'm gonna throw this out here. Feel free to agree or disagree. We can have discourse. Lawson, lock. Kingsley Jonathan, bubble boy. Boogie Basham, trade.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to ultimately try to land on.
We are of one accord here on the Cover One Roundup.
Yes, I like Shaq Lawson a lot. I think Shaq Lawson is very underrated. I think he plays a niche but significant role in this defense, and again, can do more when called upon. Kingsley Jonathan.
And a juice guy. He brings the juice.
Big juice guy. Kingsley Jonathan, again, I'm sure they'd like to work him on the roster. He is the ultimate 2018 Bills player.
That's right.
But unfortunately, he got here a couple years too late, and he's on the 2022 Bills or 2023 Bills, and it's going to be hard for him to get on the roster. But yeah, he's good. And if they can keep him around on the practice squad and develop him quietly, he could be a player in the future. But again, they had difficulty getting him on the practice squad last year. So we will see, but I could see a scenario in which he does have a strong camp and they keep him over Shaq.
It's possible, but I think they like Shaq, just generally speaking. I'm sure they like Kingsley Jonathan too, but rolling into a season where you're trying to make and win a Super Bowl, do you feel super confident in Kingsley Jonathan as your defensive end 5? In a heavy rotation defense like this? No. Probably not.
And then Boogie Basham, if you can convince a GM to be like, don't watch the film from the last couple of years. Instead, just remember that he was a second-round pick. He was getting first-round buzz.
He was a second-round pick from a Division I college.
Give up an asset. I do love this comment here from JC because he's looking at it from like a real GM perspective, right? He's trying to do asset management. Why Boogie over Epinesa for a trade? Boogie has more term. In theory, I would agree, right? In theory, I'm like, trade the player who you have less team control over, right? Who the team has less contractual control over. But
the biggest difference is that Boogie has done nothing, and AJ, I mean, at the very least, had 8 sacks. I can't really remember any of them, but they happened. Like, they actually happened in the real world. We're not talking AJ Epinesa is capable of doing something. I don't know what Boogie Basham is capable of doing on an NFL football field. I really don't.
Yeah, for me, if they were on a level playing field, absolutely. You trade the dude with, or you hold on to the dude with more term. I just don't think they're on a level playing field. I think Epinesa is better. And sorry, you guys are lucky. Steam is just opening on my computer.
yeah.
It just decided that no, you're gonna play video games right now.
Wait, hold on. What's your most recent game on Steam? Steam Summer Sale is on right now.
Yeah, I don't really use Steam, to be honest. It just updated, so it tried to open. The last game I bought was Victoria 3. I'm one of those nerds.
I don't even know what that is. Good God.
I'll look into it. I haven't played it, but I did buy it. All right. Moving on here. Oof. Again, there's a lot of players. We're on this Super Bowl contending roster.
There are players on this roster.
There are players on this roster. This is a Super Bowl contending roster, and there are a number of players that I'm just like, against better judgment, he's going to make it, and he's going to start and play significant snaps. Tyrell Dodson. Look, I think there's a possibility where he's not on the roster at the end of the year, and I also think there's a possibility that he starts week 1.
That is exactly on point, in my opinion.
Yes.
There's a very real possibility that this is the guy they go with in week 1. I hope they don't, because I've seen Tyrell Dodson, and he is, perfectly fine at defending the run and just kind of a mess in coverage. And that's who he is. And considering all of the assets that they've put into drafting linebackers in the last couple of years, one would think one of those guys is going to outplay Tyrell Dodson, right? I mean, maybe.
Hopefully. And even in that scenario, for the sake of this exercise, I think they hold on to Dodson just for depth, and he's been around for a while. And so we can put him in green just so we can kind of stop talking about Tyrell Dodson. Interesting player, interesting dude. Terrell Bernard, again, say what you will, maybe they wasted the draft pick, whatever. But he was a 3rd round pick a year ago, and he's going to come in and push to start at Mike. So I think he's going to make the roster. Worst case scenario, he's going to play teams. Tyler Matakevich, one of their go-to teamers. Is that enough to put him in green?
Yeah, because they didn't have to bring him back this year, I think. I think they re-signed him. Right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Believe so, yeah. I think they did. Okay, and while we're here, let's just do Milano and Dorian Williams. Dorian Williams, this year's 3rd round pick. He'll make it. So that's 5. They usually keep, I think sometimes they do 6 or 7 backers.
So you've got Balin Spector, AJ Klein, and who's that?
Traven Howard.
Spector is someone that flashed a little bit last year during the preseason. I don't know how much special teams he played. He seems like a special teams guy. Just sort of based on teams, AJ Klein. You know exactly what you're getting from AJ Klein.
Right. I think he's a practice squad dude. I think he's going to be one of their veteran practice squad dudes.
I feel comfortable putting all 3 of these guys as practice squad bubble guys.
All right, so we'll come back to him, but let's put him in yellow for now, one or a combination of them, and then Traven Howard again would be a fun story. Signed after a tryout in the off-season workout period, would be cool if he made the roster, and he might end up making the roster. But if I had to,
add 5.
Good. So 37, right? 32, 33, 34.
Yes. 32 plus 5 is 37.
Okay, moving on. Tre'davious, we're on to cornerbacks now for audio listeners. And also, I'm going to need to count at the end of this and be like, I probably messed up counting along the way, even though I did it step by step. Probably messed up counting. Okay, corners. Tre'davious White gonna make the roster, regardless of what the Twitter haters will tell you, that he's a bum and he's not good anymore and he's overpaid. Right? There's a lot of people who would do this, who would say, trade him now, get an asset. No, I don't think so. Kyrie Elam, again, Joe Buscaglia would tell you trade him, get an asset. No. The Athletic. Hey, did you see New York Times is closing its sports department?
That's right.
What a field we found ourselves in here, David.
Isn't it great? Just so much safety and security and longevity in this particular profession and field. We made great decisions in our early 20s with hundreds of thousands of dollars at our disposal from the federal government. Anyway, moving on.
Thank you. Kyrie Elam. Yeah, first round pick from a year ago. He's going to make the roster. Dane Jackson and Christian Benford. Again, this is going to be a competition that causes a lot of Twitter fights. Is it even a competition? Should Kyrie Elam even be being pushed by Dane Jackson and Christian Benford? Whatever. But yes, they're going to make the roster. And then while we're here with Taron Johnson, yes, he's in a category of his own. He's making the roster. He's their starting nickel. He plays most of the snaps. So that's five corners, technically, 4 actual boundary corners. So that leaves us with 5 more corners to discuss. Cam Lewis, Cam Dantzler, Saron Neal, Alex Austin, Jamarcus Ingram. Jamarcus Ingram is, again, regrettably going to be on the practice squad.
I don't want Jamarcus Ingram on a football field again.
Right.
That was rough.
They might back themselves into a position where they need to put Jamarcus Ingram on the field again.
That if we're down, 3 cornerbacks like they were last year, then so be it. But I can't imagine that happening again. Clip that for later because I'm sure it's going to happen again.
I am comfortable putting these 4, Cam Lewis, Cam Dantzler, Saron Neal, Alex Austin, in yellow.
I am comfortable putting 3 of them in yellow.
Who do you want locked?
Saron Neal.
Okay, no, because we're going to have a debate. Do you want to do the debate now with Tyrell Shavers versus Saron Neal, or do you want?
I'm sorry. Did Tyrell Shavers sign a 3-year contract last year?
Look, we're ignoring contracts, right? I put Tim Settle in yellow.
Right,
for you,
of course.
Right? If we're ignoring Tim Settle's contract, we're ignoring Saron Neal's contract.
We're not ignoring Tim Settle's contract. We're saying that if they cut him, it's less than $1 million to get rid of him.
Let me see.
Saron Neal is not going to be that.
Saron Neal. I got to see his dead cap. If it's bad,
Saron Neal. Okay, so
they save 1.6.
They would save some money.
1.8 actually. I can't read either. Okay. So yes, let's for right now, let's just do this. Let me put these dudes in yellow. Oh, that's not the right shade. And then I will give my sermon, if you will, regarding Saron Neal versus Tyrell Shavers. Tyrell Shavers, from what I've read, from everything I've read on Twitter, the film, whatever, he is a good gunner, right? He is a good gunner who can step in and gun right away. RJ writes, Saron Neal is a lock between being one of the best gunners in the league and his contract cap hit. Okay, yes, but as we just discussed, they could actually save money by cutting Saron Neal, and he is an upper tier gunner, right? If you want to get into the nitty gritty of the elite gunners in the NFL, Saron Neal is in that category. Yes, but hear me out. For you, David, and again, I'm sorry, things are just popping up on my screen. How steep or how big does the margin in gunning ability and play between Saron Neal and Tyrell Shavers have to be before you are like, okay, I accept this drop off because what I'm getting, I know what Saron Neal is as a defender, right? I tried to develop him for a couple of years. He just never turned into anything as a defender. I am not comfortable putting him on the field. Whereas Tyrell Shavers, again, it's possible that he might never turn into any, but he is 6'6", right? He's a wide receiver, an interesting developmental piece. If anything, a red zone target. If anything, you put his 6'6" body in the red zone and you just have Josh Allen throw jump balls and Tyrell Shavers goes up and gets them, in addition to being a special teams gunner. So, is that... now that I'm talking about it, I still think you can put Tyrell Shavers on the practice squad. I don't think you need to part with Saron Neal to get Tyrell Shavers to keep him around, but I think it's a conversation that could be had.
If Saron Neal is not on the roster by cutdown day, he will be on someone else's roster by the end of cutdown day. That's what I think.
Okay, yeah.
Because the rest of the league also acknowledges how good Saron Neal is on special teams. And there's some teams that are going to look at that and be like, oh, shoot, this guy's available? Well, we need to get him.
I was just having fun. You know, it was just an interesting.
I understand.
It was just an interesting.
That's why we have podcasts.
You know, this is just the marketplace of ideas. That's what we're renaming the podcast. Is the Cover One marketplace of ideas. The Cover One stock exchange. That would be cool. What would that show be? It wouldn't be good. It would be canceled. Is what it would.
I'm pretty sure there's a PFF podcast about the NFL draft called the NFL Draft Exchange or something like that. So I don't know legally how well we'd be able to do with that, but
it's a stupid name, dumb name.
It is stupid.
Micah Hyde. We're on to safeties now.
Yes.
Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, DeMar Hamlin, Taylor Rapp. I'm good with all of these dudes being locks.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Though I remember an early roster projection. Sorry, there's a bug on my microphone. I remember seeing an early roster projection after the draft in which DeMar Hamlin was kept off the roster in favor of Nick Broker. And I was just thinking, like, okay, one, like, depth-wise, safety depth with experience is a more pressing need on this roster than developmental guard who wouldn't be active week to week. Right. And in general, can you imagine?
My God.
Can you imagine?
If they just straight up cut DeMar Hamlin.
How would Sean? You want to talk about Sean McDermott's lost the locker room? People would argue that he would lose the locker room like that if he stood in front of them and said, "We cut DeMar Hamlin." There would be, there would be
no locker room. Awful. It would be done.
Outrage, right? Stephon Diggs would walk out. Stephon Diggs would be like, I'm not coming back this time. I'm not coming back tomorrow. RJ writes, they would place him on IR instead. That's, again, if you want to get DeMar Hamlin off the roster, which you shouldn't want to, right? Like, he had his struggles last year on the field. But again,
he's still like a serviceable player.
Right. He's shown a lot of flashes as a player, right? Like, again, go back and watch podcasts from early last season and years ago, even about DeMar Hamlin. I've always been a DeMar Hamlin guy. He's sticking around. And then, Zane Anderson, Jared Maiden. Look, you're red. Zane Anderson, maybe as a teamer, maybe, but I mean,
put him as a yellow.
I'll put him in yellow, but I doubt it. And then Dean Marlowe, what are we thinking here?
That's probably a yellow.
See, some people would say green. I would maybe.
So, hold on. We're right here at the end. We could just get into the whole discussion and debate. Okay, so let's very quickly. So we have 47. Is that what we're counting against?
All right, carry the show while I count quietly.
I was gonna count. You're the one who's not good at math, so I was just trying to count.
Fair.
I don't know.
RJ writes, Hamlin showed promise last year when playing with Poyer. Yes, that, and just like go back and watch preseason tape. Like, granted, he's playing against not great opposition, but like he showed a lot of promise as just like a hitter, right? Like his hits were very, not loud. That's a way to describe it. I guess that is a good descriptor.
I totally lost count. My bad.
Wonderful. All right, you carry the show.
So
I got it.
What is the story with Maiden? That's a great question. That's Trip McMahon asking that. I don't know anything about Jared Maiden, unfortunately. This is just sort of one of these guys. It seems like that is just sort of like, you bring him onto the roster. I don't know exactly what he's gonna bring into this, and especially at a position where they already clearly have plenty of they have their starters in Hyde and Poyer and depth with Hamlin and Rapp, and guys and like Hamlin, we're good.
We were right.
Look at that.
We were right on 47. Okay, here we go. Fun. We've structured this in such a great way. Okay. Oh wait, I should have read the chat. Count cells by color. That I don't know how to use this. I don't know how to use.
if we had thought of that, we would have done it. So thank you, Trip, thank you for trying to help us. We're just kind of beyond help at this point.
All right, so what do we have? 6 roster spots left to give?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's just. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start back at the top with running backs, or do you want to, are there guys where you're just like, this is somebody that I want on this roster?
Shakir and Shorter. Let's figure them out. I want them both on the roster.
You want them both on the roster?
Yes. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I have a hard time justifying keeping 6 wide receivers off the bat when there's a bunch of receivers in the NFL, and odds are someone from one of these other 31 clubs is going to get cut that probably shouldn't be. And I think that you can either reasonably hope that Khalil Shakir is available after 24 hours to resign, or that someone else will be available that you feel is in that same caliber. So I think I would rather keep Justin Shorter and let Shakir go. I'm sure that's going to be a very popular decision.
If I have to keep one, right? If gun to my head, have to choose one to keep, I'm keeping Shorter. So I will put Shorter in green right now, just because, like I said, I think he has special teams ability. He can be active theoretically every week just from his team's ability. And I think, again, long-term, his ceiling is higher, just given his story, given his profile. I think should they be unable to re-sign Gabriel Davis, I think there is a scenario, maybe not a likelihood, but a scenario in which Justin Shorter is able to ultimately take over. So I want to keep him around. We're at 48. Let's look at corner again.
Okay.
Are they happy with White and Elam as the starters and then Jackson and Benford as the depth?
I think so. I mean, they clearly like Benford enough because he started for them last year, like right out the gate.
Right.
And Dane Jackson, like they gave him the 1-year restricted free agent contract. He's somebody who started a bunch of games for them before, sort of like the new Levi Wallace, basically. Yeah, I think that they're very comfortable with who they have as starters, who they have at depth behind them. It's really just a question of who do they keep of this other group, right? Like Cam Lewis is somebody who started for them at corner and also safety last year.
They like Cam Lewis.
They do like Cam Lewis. And Cam Dantzler was a high pick for the Vikings, but hasn't really done much in the NFL. And he was somebody that a lot of people really liked when he came out, but he just really hasn't done much of anything. And I would be hard pressed to be like, oh yeah, he's probably going to make this roster. Like I don't know about that. It's a good pickup for them just to have, right? Because maybe this is just somebody that potentially gets lost in the weeds, and maybe you find a way to sneak him onto the roster or onto the practice squad. But I also think like Alex Austin, right? He was their 7th round pick this year. And
he's an interesting dude to talk about.
He's such a classic McDermott Bean pick, where it's just like, we're going to take this guy who's a classic zone corner, who is perfectly good at that, and he's going to carve out a role on this team in a year or two, because that's just what he does. Because he fits with what they want to do so well.
Yeah, I've said this before. Like Alex Austin, I don't think he's making the week 1 roster, but I'm sure at some point this season he will be called upon to play and he will be fine. Like that's just how
I feel more like, if we're talking about him versus Jamarcus Ingram, I feel way better about Alex Austin than I do Jamarcus Ingram.
Sure, but like, yeah, the conversation really needs to be, is Cam Lewis making the roster?
Not off the gate, no.
Okay, let's go back up to Damian Harris and Latavius Murray. I think we both agree that we prefer Harris over Murray. Again, we'd like both, so let's put Damian Harris
like both.
Here. Yeah. We're at 49. Can we right now give Murray a roster spot? Let's not, and let's give Quentin Morris a roster spot because we kind of talked ourselves into it earlier, and we just didn't come back to it.
We just kind of have to be able to,
right? If
you need to be able to have 3 tight ends if you're going to run 12 personnel. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It's just like this whole exercise has been. It's a numbers thing.
All right, so we have 3 spots left. Let me go through and copy and paste the names that I think are legitimately competing for these 3 spots. Sure. I think there are more than 3 names. If there are not, then our work is done, and it's easy. Okay. Latavius Murray is competing for one of the spots. Khalil Shakir in competition for one of the spots. Tommy Doyle in competition for one of the spots. Eli Onko in competition. Alan Spector.
Do you want to put Eli Anko on there?
No, I've read the wrong name. Tim Settle is what I meant. No, Eli Onko. Yeah, I think again he'll be on the perennial practice squad. Dude would be fun to have. I don't think he's going to make the roster over the DTs that they currently have and the DTs that are in front of him. Cam Lewis, another dude on the bubble. Geez, we got 3 spots that we got.
This is what's tough about having a good roster. There are guys where you're just like, we've seen this guy play before and we know what he's capable of. We just don't have the spots for him.
Okay. Tommy Doyle, we got 4 tackles. We have 4 tackles. We have Dawkins, Brown, Questenberry, and Shell. And then we also have 4 guards, and we have Ryan Bates, who can do a little bit of everything. So I'm sorry, I don't think I can give Tommy Doyle a roster spot.
I would agree with that.
When up against the likes that we're talking about here, I don't think I can give Tommy Doyle a roster spot. Tim Settle's contract makes it interesting, but I think that, again, somebody brought up the point earlier, they ate money with OJ Howard last year. I think they would eat money. See, I don't know. Do they eat money, though?
It's less than $1 million.
Settle here out. I pulled up the code. Okay, we're good. Y'all didn't see the code anyway. You guys probably think I'm a crazy person. I clicked the button. I'm not having a good time operating this computer. All right. We're down to 5 players. We're down to 5 players for the final 3 spots.
Jessica writes, this is like paint drying. Yeah, and you're watching it. So thank you, Jessica.
This is like paint drying. That's a very rude comment. That may be the rudest comment we have ever gotten on this podcast.
That's not true.
Somebody told us earlier that this is the most sarcastic Bills podcast, and I was like,
that is true. And thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I don't know if I can give Latavius Murray a roster spot. I'd like to, but I have 3 running backs. Khalil Shakir, I have 5 other wide receivers. Balen Spector, I have 5 linebackers. Cam Lewis, I got a bunch of other DBs who I like more than you. Sorry, Cam Lewis, you're out. Dean Marlowe. I think we figured it out, David. I think we figured it out.
Yeah.
I think Dean Marlowe's not making the roster.
Thesis, please.
Okay. So, Latavius Murray, you're making the roster. Khalil Shakir, you did it. It was close, but you did it. And Balen Spector, you play teams. You're a cool dude to keep around. We're at 53. Here's the 53-man roster projection.
So we've got Josh and Kyle Allen at quarterback, with Matt Barkley presumably on the practice squad. We've got James Cook, Damian Harris, Nyheim Hines, and Latavius Murray all making the roster. Reggie Gilliam, but the other 4 players were running backs. Reggie Gilliam, fullback. Stephon Diggs, Khalil Shakir, Gabriel Davis, Justin Shore, Trent Sherfield, and Deontay Hardy, all at wide receiver, all 6 of them. You have Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, and Quentin Morris at tight end. You have Deion Dawkins, Spencer Brown, Dave Questenberry, Brandon Shell at offensive tackle. You have Connor McGovern, David Edwards, Ryan Bates, Osiris Torrance at guard with Ike Bucker, a trade candidate. And if he doesn't get traded, I assume he just gets cut. Mitch Morse at center. That's an easy one. Ed Oliver, Jordan Phillips, Pinafore, Daquan Jones, all locks with Tim Settle and Eli Anko as bubble guys. Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, Leonard Floyd, AJ Epinesa, Shaq Lawson at defensive end with Kingsley Jonathan as a bubble guy and Boogie Basham as a trade candidate, likely a cut candidate as well. Tyrell Dodson, Terrell Bernard, Tyler Matakevich, Balin Spector, Matt Milano, Dorian Williams, all at linebacker positions with Trayvon Howard and AJ Klein on the bubble. Trey White, along with Kyer Elam, Dane Jackson, and Christian Bedford, and Saron Neal, are all 5 corners. Sorry, totally forgot which position we were at. All 5 corners that are locked with Cam Lewis and Cam Dantzler and Alex Austin, all bubble guys. And then Taron Johnson is Taron Johnson, and he's making the roster. Tyler Bass, Sam Martin, and Reed Ferguson are all of the starting special teams guys. And Micah Hyde, DeMar Hamlin, Taylor Rapp, and Jordan Poyer are at safety with Dee Marlowe and Zane Anderson as bubble guys. I feel pretty confident in this.
I like this. AK Cash writes, AJ Klein, I think he will be one of the veterans on the practice squad. Again, break glass in case of emergency, in case something goes wrong, whether it be an injury or something else, he'll be around. Rick writes, Jessica is right regarding this being like paint drying. Rick, I am no longer trying your Irish wine. Absolutely not.
Hey,
no review.
Listen, as Jordan Poyer's driver says, the people want dry paint. Watch, you'll see. The people also want sarcasm. Just saying.
What is he implying, that the people were being sarcastic?
No, he's implying that that we were called the most sarcastic Bills podcast.
Mm-hmm.
People want sarcasm. Clearly, all 67 of our viewers wanted sarcasm, or they wouldn't be here.
My night is ruined. The chat has ruined my night.
Get a box of wine.
Yeah, no, really. Yeah, I'm going to go drink some Kyle wine. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the Cover One YouTube channel. That subscribe button is somewhere down there. Make sure to follow Cover One on all social media outlets and subscribe to the iTunes feeds. Again, we all have our own iTunes feed. Subscribe to the Roundup iTunes feed. Also check out Air Raid Hour on YouTube and iTunes. You also got, what do you got? You got Going Deep. You got This Guy's Covered. You got Cover One Buffalo. You got Under Review. You got If the Walls Could Talk. You got Late Night Buffalo. You got The Greg Thompson Show. I think I got them all. And if I didn't, I botched it.
I think you got them all, like right off the top too. It's right off the dome.
You do this long enough, you figure it out. Make sure to, check out Cover One Pass. That's what it's called. Ooh, I got a little cocky. Cover One Pass. What is that? That is the Cover One subscription service, if you will. As you can see here, $57 a year. What a value. And you get all this great stuff, exclusive members only content, in-depth analysis, all that stuff, exclusive articles, and a t-shirt. Wow. Make sure to check out CoverOne.football. Again, great written content going out over there consistently. Make sure to check out Underdog Fantasy and BetUS. Use code Cover1. Make sure to follow David on Twitter at.
You can follow me at DFAUXY or at DFoxy. Kyle, where can people find you On the ever-dying Twitter application.
Not on it. I'm on Threads, baby. I am the #1 Bills threader in the world.
That's probably true, actually.
I am the most followed account on Threads. I am just killing it over there on Threads with my motivational speech that is just, Zuckerberg is promoting. And we're having a great time over there on Threads. Really good atmosphere. Yeah. I think that wraps it up. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to do whatever it is that you do. Bye-bye.